Hi guys. Okay, this page was a lot of fun to do. I knew when I made this bright, light, pretty pink and purple background that I was going to paint a face on it. I just kind of knew that. I think I even said it in the video maybe, or at least like in the voiceover of the video. I did run into some troubles. I had forgotten how a really heavy lead, so this is like a 6B pencil, how a really heavy lead responds when it's on really glossy surface, and there was definitely some of that gloss polymer. I probably would have fared much better if I had put a layer of matte medium over it, and I find that ironic since I told you guys that putting a layer of matte medium would be really beneficial and then didn't follow my own advice. But I did kind of say that for sticking, and anyway, I would have definitely done better when it comes to the erasing, which you'll see here in a minute, had I followed my own advice and put a layer of matte medium over this before I tried to draw on it. Chalk it up to laziness, I think. This is another one of my really long-necked girls. I've done these for a very long time, completely by accident, never realizing that it was an actual art style of one of the master artists, but that's okay. In a way, I guess, you know, maybe it says that we all do sort of, you know, come from some, you know, there's some form of spirit out there. I struggled a few times here with the changing of the eraser, because when I changed the eraser out, of course it was way longer than I remember it being when I first got it. But I was just struggling, period, like I said, because of the glossy nature. And I mean, it had been probably 3 or 4 days before I, you know, used this page again after I created the background, so that it certainly wasn't wet or anything. It's just the nature of highly glossy polymer. But nonetheless, I do eventually get over it. It is probably part of the reason why I chose to go with complete acrylic painting, so that I could basically use the opaque aspect of the paint colors and be able to cover it up. Also, I'm going to show you a little trick that I teach my students, which is when you have a pre-painted background and that pre-painted background really has no color relation to skin tone or anything like that, a really awesome sort of trick or cheating way to make sure that it's going to kind of flow together is to take some of that skin tone color, mix up your skin tone, whatever your base color is, mix that up and put it in your background. Even if you do it this, which you'll see me do here in a minute, just go ahead and get some of that color down into the background. You can do it in a translucent layer so that it's not changing your background too drastically, but once you have that color there, everything can kind of flow and make sense from there. Also, you're going to see a little later on when I use the tissue paper, the color theme or feeling of that tissue paper is wildly different from anything I already kind of had, I think with the exception of the leaves and the eyes. But somehow it all kind of comes together because I just remember that rule of, you know, incorporating my colors into the rest of my painting or the rest of my page. Now, if you were looking for an extremely dramatic shift, then you could have used, or I could have used that color only in those few areas, not incorporated it into the hair and the eyebrows. You know, you can do that if you're looking to create drama on purpose or with intent. It's perfectly okay. Any rules that exist are rules that once you sort of, I think it's the beauty and what, okay, so many artists who eventually go on to kind of, you know, master their craft, or they've been artists and they've been painting specifically for a really long time. But it's not just painting, because even sculpture artists will do this as well. They will start out in a more detailed form of painting, and then by the end of their careers you see them start to go, and I'm by no means saying I'm there, okay, by a long shot, I'm just trying to explain the concept. Maybe someday I'll get there. But they're, towards the end of their careers, they actually have a tendency to move back towards more simple, sometimes even abstract visual creations. And the reason I think for that is because they have learned all the rules. They've spent so much of their career learning and figuring out and establishing all those different painting rules, or design layout painting rules, color theory. They learn all of that, and then they slowly start to break all those rules. And I think that's such at first it confused me when I first started learning about painting and learning about other artists, and how specifically like master artists. So I would see their early work and I would be completely blown away by it, but then I would look at their later work and I would be, well, that's so abstract and that's so loose and that's so far from what they did in their younger days in their careers. And it took me a long time, and I was fascinated when I kind of was brought to that awareness that they do it because of that, because all rules are meant to be broken. The true beauty and fun is breaking those rules, and yet still creating a beautiful, masterful painting. And like I said, I'll throw it out there again, I'm by no means saying that's what I'm doing, but I am saying that when you do learn a rule, like something that is taught to you as this is something you should do. Okay, so when someone teaches you that, it's awesome to learn those things. When we first start out, the first thing we do is learn how to paint backgrounds, and then we're like, I don't know what to do now. So it's kind of like a growth stage that we go through. So it's really fun to learn any specific little thing like that. But then it's also fun to, at some point, break those rules. Whether you're breaking that rule, completely unaware that you've done it, or whether you're breaking that rule with intent, to create something that's more visually appealing, or maybe even something that's more visually appealing to you because you have become a connoisseur of whatever it is you're creating. There's some fun and some enjoyment in that as well. So it's not all just about learning the rules and then following them. At some point in time, you kind of break away from them. So I was wanting to incorporate the like a different flower sort of feeling or shape, but quite honestly, it ended up being a little too faint. I should have used a thicker, more opaque layer, or maybe even put some white texture paste or something in it, and a lot of that does get covered up. But interestingly enough, without my realizing it, it actually matches the tissue paper that you're going to see me, or paper napkin you're going to see me use later. And the funny thing is, I had no intention at this point in the painting. Here's where I'm using the skin tone, by the way. I had no intention of using the paper napkin. I literally reached a point, and you're gonna see it clearly when you see the video kind of stops and then it starts back, and now I've got this paper napkin. It's not like I sat down and said, okay, when I reach a certain point, I'm gonna add the squirrel. And it doesn't look anything like a squirrel related painting at the art journal page at this point. So I had no intention of doing it, but I reached at that moment, just when I stopped the camera and then come back with the napkin, it was because I looked at it and I felt like it needed more. I felt like there was way too much focus just on the girl, and I felt like although the flowers were pretty, I probably would have, had I not used the little squirrel, I probably would have had to add even more flowers, and I just was not in the mood to do that at that point. But I absolutely love how it turned out, and it worked perfect for my kind of concept that I was playing with, which was the concept of, change, and when we kind of get caught somewhere in between, we haven't quite changed, especially like if you're trying to, and this is perfect for the time of year because a lot of people set like, you know, New Year's resolutions or intentions, or you pick a word for the year, whatever it is you're doing with the start of your year. We humans seem to feel like we need to make big changes when a year starts. I've noticed I always make changes, whether they're small or drastic, around the time of my birthday every year. So like this year I went vegan at the time of my birthday. It's just the way for me when I guess I go through my little shift a little earlier than some of the rest of the population. But we all seem to do it. And there's always that period of time. I kind of feel like I'm in it right now with my, you know, my lifestyle as far as, you know, my relationship with food and health and how I treat my body, and then as well my relationship with animals, and you know, my views and feelings about how you know, the food industry and what we're doing to ruin so many things with it, including harming animals. But anyway, I won't go down that road because I know you're not necessarily here for that. But anyway, no matter what it is, whether you're trying to quit smoking, you're trying to exercise, whatever life changes or environment changes or lifestyle changes you're making, you kind of have that period of time where you feel like a changeling, you know, like you feel like you're half done. And you're not 100% into your new, you know, thing or whatever it is, but you're not all the way out of your old one either. So you feel a little torn or a little caught. It happens to me. There's still milk in my refrigerator because I have my granddaughter here, and you know, I don't dictate to her parents their food nor her food, you know, that's not my place. So when I open my refrigerator, there is still a gallon of milk there. And you know, someone who has literally from day one pretty much had, you know, dairy in my life, it's a habit to reach for that milk gallon sometimes. And it was funny because the kids were in the midst of, I think it's like a midweek thing where they have to buy more milk, and so there were actually like 3 gallons of milk in my refrigerator. And I opened my refrigerator and I was just like, you know, like it wasn't like I was upset or anything. I just felt this overwhelm for a minute because I felt like this total changeling. Like I still wanted to reach for that milk, even though I don't necessarily crave milk. In fact, I don't crave milk, but I wanted to reach for it. It was the weirdest thing. And it's just that whole changeling thing. And so that's kind of where I came up with sort of what you might call a title. I'm not big on like, you know, big titles on pages or anything, but I kind of gave this page this whole nothing will change until you do sort of title to it. And you know, that's kind of that feeling of that whole, you know, until you change, 100% accept and change, and you know, come to accept or you know, find acceptance with whatever your new thing is. You're either not going to end up doing it, and you're going to, you know, you're going to fight it internally somehow, and then eventually drop your new, you know, your new plan or whatever it is, or you're going to find yourself in that changeling moment for a little bit until you know, reach that point of acceptance. And although I do feel now like I have reached that point of acceptance, I think I'm still in the middle of that changeling thing where I kind of have to come to grips with the fact that I'm living with meat eaters and dairy eaters, and yet I don't want to see those things or don't desire to have those things. So it's like, you know, it's a changeling thing, I guess. I just wonder if anyone else has, you know, felt those things, or, you know, if you've got examples where you have felt like a changeling for a while. If so, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear. It's always awesome to hear other people's thoughts on that sort of thing. Okay, so pretty much, you know, this is majorly just a painting video. When I get the acrylics out, I just seem to go and can't stop. But I'm going to leave the last little bit, which is probably the most transformational part of this video, with you just, you know, listening to the music. And like I said again, I am going to do a Q&A video where I'm going to answer any questions, so please feel free to leave me any questions you have may have about this, about what I did, why I did it, the products I use, anything like that. I'm happy to answer your questions, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, and I hope you're having a wonderful week.